paid products and all, but this is not that kind of product. This is for free. You can utilize, no issues in that case. So now what I'm doing, I'm going to create a new project, and we have certain templates over here. And in those templates, I'll select WinForms. That is basically a very simple exe or Windows application, you can say. So once we select that, we have to click over. We have to select that particular application. I can name that, let's say, fungible. Okay, let me select the name, fungible token creation 1, because I know that I've created one more for testing purpose. So 1, and just a second, guys, and then click on next. So once we do that, we will have this Windows Forms application ready for us. Create. And this is again similar to that AlgoKit, or where we are given ready-made templates. Here is the same thing. We are given some ready-made templates to be consumed, right? So we all know before these websites and all, we used to work all on exe or softwares. So this is kind of software you can consider. Now, once you do that, this is your canvas. So for website developers, this is basically your HTML page. But in website, you have that WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. Over here is basically you can drag and drop everything wherever you want it, right? It is no issues in that case that you have to put follow the table and all. You don't need over here. Now on the left hand side, you can see that this is my toolbox over there. I have all Windows Forms, control and all. So I'll just drag a very simple button to make you understand how this particular thing works. So as soon as you put a button over here on the right hand side under the Solution Explorer window, you have Properties window. And over there, the by default property text is selected. So what I can do is I can just do over here, create asset. Fine. So now the button says create asset. Okay. Now if you double click on that, your CS file, that is basically your C# file, that's where you are going to program everything will open up, right? So this is basically the way you have that React.js, and then you add those HTML code or for designing purposes, and then you add the JavaScript code to make them work. Similarly, over here, there are two parts of the screen. One, which is known as canvas, where you can put your controls and all. And then the second one is basically you are coding from the backend, or you can say C# file. Now, this is an event which is going to work for us, right? Now, you know that last time also we did some SDK installations. Over here also, we are going to do the same. Right click over here, go to manage Nugget packages, click over there, go to browse. Don't go for install because you have not installed Algorand over there. Look for Algorand and then select this one, Algorand 2 by Frank. And then you can just click install. Wait. It will pop up some things for you to accept. Once you accept that, the library is installed for. So just close that part and we are done. Now you remember that last week when we did that, we had a couple of or maybe 3 different functions defined for us. So similarly today also, if you remember last time what we did. So first step in any sort of blockchain connection, the first step is always establish a network connection, right? So how to establish a network connection? Very simple. When you are supposed to have that RPC URL. Now, what is RPC URL? It is basically remote procedure call. So this RPC URL will give you the address of the network, right? Address of the network where you are going to deploy your smart contract or where you are going to deploy your asset. That is one thing. After that RPC URL is done, you need a wallet. Yeah. And then you submit the transaction. Or you can say you create the transaction, whatever you want. And then you submit the transaction. So this is a 5-step process you normally do. Once you finish the 5-step process, you will be able to create an asset. Simple. Now over here, since we have the button click event, which is basically an event-based programming where a button gets clicked, whatever code you are going to write, it will be redirected to here. Right? If I just want to run, can place click the button over here. The project will automatically run. Right. So the form is there. You can just full screen if you want to do. Create asset. Currently, we have not done anything. So it will not display anything to us. Now, as a first step, we need to establish a network connection. So for the first step, what we need to establish the network connection. So I'll just quickly get my other code. And not this one. Not this one. Yeah, this one. So I'll just copy this code. I'll explain what we have done over there. So this is basically setup Algorand connection, right? So that means what am I doing? I am creating a connection for the network. So I've declared an HTTP client, and then in the configuration part, configure HTTP client, the packet, the library we have, or the function I'm going to use, accepts two variables. So what is the first variable? The first variable is the network address. So you can see that this is the network address. Now the question is, do I need to remember this address? No. You can go ahead, open app.devflow.org, go to the node manager on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, you will see the address over here. Right? So utilize this address. This is the address which we have used, which is an algo D URL. Right? So you have to use that URL over here. So what we have done, we have created the URL. Okay. Then it is asking for some variable, which I have not declared. That's why it is giving me an error. Algorand API instance, new default API. So what we are doing, we are passing this particular HTTP client where we had this Algorand instance running. And over there is a default API layer, which will give us access to the transaction submission part and all. And that's why what we need is, we need a couple of variables we need to declare over there, right? So what we can do, we can just go over here before the constructor starts. This is the constructor of the Windows form.
Sunil, I'm sorry, I'll have to interrupt you for a minute. There are messages from Meet and Pratik saying that the screen is not visible.
Okay.
Although it's visible to me, but
yeah. So let me share and start again, because
yes.
I think there may be some other, no idea, because Meet, I guess, joined again. Now is it visible, Meet, Pratik?
Yeah, it's visible. Pratik
Okay.
says yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So now what happened over here? So one more time, whenever the people were not able to see my screen. So we have just copied a very simple function, which allowed me to connect to the RPC URL. What is that RPC URL? This is that RPC URL, testnet api.algonode.cloud. From where you can get this URL? Just go to app.devflow, go to node manager, and on the right hand side, you will get this URL, right? Now coming back to this code actually just creates an RPC URL connection and an API connection. But it is because this variable is not declared, it is giving me an error, right? So for variable, we need three kinds of variables basically. One is the one which we are missing that default API or API variable. And the second one is we need a wallet variable, right? So let me just copy from the previous code what other variables do we need. So we need these two variables. KMD API we don't need for now. So I'll just comment it out because we don't need that. But over here, as soon as I do this, it will give me an error saying the namespace or account could not be found. Very simple. This package is a part of a namespace, which I have not added to the code. So what you need to do, just drop down and add this one, and we are good to go. Right? This is very, very user-friendly IDE where there are 90% of your errors can be sorted out this easily, which I have never seen happening in most of the other IDEs, right? This easily. Yeah, they have their own ways, but most of them followed the IDE pattern from here only, or Visual Studio only. Now we have taken the first step. What is that first step? Creating the Algorand connection. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just call that function over here, setup Algorand connection. So what it will do now, first step is taken. What was the first step? Establish a network connection. And the second step also integrated with that, create an RPC URL. So this first and second, both steps are now. So I can write over here, first, second, steps are over, completed or done, or let's say complete. So now what is the second thing? We need a wallet. Okay. So for wallet, we have already created an account called creator. But now what do I need? I need to set up a function which actually will create a wallet for me. So what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll copy that function from here. I'll remove these other lines because these are old codes and all. So I'll just remove this one. We don't need this also. Now I have created a mnemonic, a string variable called mnemonic. And over there, I have passed my mnemonic, which I have used while creating the Pera wallet account. And I have exported that mnemonic and I have just pasted over here. So anyways, whenever you create a wallet in Pera wallet, you can export the mnemonic, which will be demonstrated on your phone. You can copy those 15, 20, whatever 15, 25 words over here, and you are good to go. Once I get that mnemonic, what I'm doing is I'm creating an account out of it. What account? Creator, which is basically a combination of wallet address and private key. So just try to understand. Account means wallet address and private key both. While an address means just a wallet address and they don't have, or that particular data type does not have any sort of private key associated with that. So as a second step, what I'll do, my third step basically is your wallet creation. So in that, I will call setup accounts. Okay, so now my account is also created. My network is also established. And now most important part, which one? Create the transaction or we can say step, right? Now over here, what I need to do, I need to now create the entire journey of transaction. So let us step by step do that. How do we establish that one? So first of all, yeah. So over here, what we need to do, we need to have a variable declaration, but not here within the function itself. What is that variable, first of all? So where there are multiple comments. Yeah, my for everyone else is visible. So I guess some internet issues for others. Mudasir, you are able to see my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
So that means that the problem is not from our side. Why only couple of people are not able to see the screen?
Yeah, that
You are at where, right? The line 40.
Yeah, I'm at where? Yes, I'm at where?
Yeah, I'm able to see. I'm not
So
sure.
I can copy a new code. See, now you will be able to see the new code also.
Yes.
Yeah. So guys, Mohita, what?
Can you just unshare and share again?
Yeah, I'll try to do that.
Yeah.
So stop sharing and share again. Now visible, guys? I think their internet connection gets broken in between and that's why they lose that screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Govind says it's visible.
Visible?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So over here, now this happened for the first time, right, Mohita? Like we have been doing this over long.
Yeah, yeah.
This just happened for the first time.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. So now the first step is create the asset parameter. So I'm creating a variable called AP asset parameters equals to new asset parameters or asset params basically. And what I'll do is I'll just have this one and have a semicolon over here. Now over here, what I need to do is I need to provide 4 parameters. Basic 4 parameters. First one is AP dot name. So what is the name I want for my token to be created, my fungible token to be created? What name I want? So I can just put a name over here. Let's say M1. right? But then, is this okay? I'm not sure. Why? Because this is then a static value. So for that, what do we need? We need a dynamic parameter, right? So for that, what will I do? I'll go over here and I'll create three text boxes where the user can enter whatever name he wants. So I'll do over here, I'll copy a text box. Okay, this is my text box. One, I'll just create two copies of the same text box, right? So we have text box 1, text box 2, and text box 3. On the right hand side, you can see that it is text box 1. If I select the second one, it is 2, and the third one is 3. Now we can change the name also, right? Over here, we can see we can have put some text also. We can have at the bottom, I guess there is the password character is there. Then there are certain other things where you can find out and you can put the information over there, like placeholder and all, right? You can study all the properties are given to you over here. You can use whenever you, whatever methods you want to use. There are plenty of things over here. You can check on your own. Currently, my point is there are three different wallet addresses, three different text boxes for us. Now in these text boxes, what I want to add is this one. So first of all, we need to have a name, okay? The second thing we need is this one, ap.creator or manager, right? So what is this basically? This is basically my creator.address. That means the wallet address which is going to create this one. Then the third thing is what we need. We need basically the second one. What is the other parameter? Okay, let me just quickly go back here. The unit name and total. Okay. So why are we getting an error over here when this is working fine? Okay, it's a comma, and that's what we have done. All right, maybe at the end we will resolve the errors. So the second thing is total, which is basically the number of variables you want to create or the number of tokens you want to create. And then at last, what they have done is one more parameter we require. Yes, name, unit name, total, and manager. So we need this one, ap.unit name. Right. So this is basically, again, you can have some text value associated with that. So this basically 4 parameters which you are required to create an ASA. So I'll just destroy this one and paste the code which actually is the same one. Still it is working, right? So I'll just paste that code over here. So name over here, name, unit name, total, manager. Now the question is what we have done over here is we have assigned the text box 1. So that is by default your name. Over here, the unit name will be text from the text box 2. But the text box 3, because it's a string variable, we need to convert to an unsigned integer 64-bit so that you get the total number of assets you want to create. And in the manager one, what we have done is very simple. We have created the managers of the wallet address. The accounts address we have passed to the manager. There are other parameters also you can utilize over here like creator. You can see that, or we have clawback, the freeze. See, there are plenty of other properties you can set, but these are basically 4 unique, 4 you can say kind of mandatory parameters we do that. So once we have established the asset parameter, the second step is to, so this is your first step. Now the second step is to create the transaction object. Now, how to create this transaction object? So very simple, you can say asset creation, AST equals to new asset creation. And we are good to go. So this basically becomes the transaction object which you can create, right? But there is a catch over here. This is fine. You have created, you can assign the AST.parameters over here or asset parameters equals to AP. So that is all taken care of. But then there is one more step over here, and then you need to set the network parameters also. Now, what are these network parameters? Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just copy some code from here. The same thing what we have done, but the names are different. So I'm just pasting over here. So this is fine. But the next step is, as I told you, we have to make a transaction object. So this is the next code. Now what exactly it is doing, let us see that. So this is basically a function called make transaction. It is accepting whatever transaction object we have created, the account which is created for us, and the third one is basically Algorand API instance. What is that Algorand API instance? That is your RPC URL. Yeah, over here we have set that. Now over here, what is done? We need to create this function also. Before that function, we cannot proceed. So I'll just save the part and I'll get back to my code and I will get that function from there. What is that function? Just a second. Make transaction. Yes. So static here. Let's see. And make transaction exactly over here. So we'll not have any error. Now I will explain step by step what happened over here. Why is it still giving an error? Okay. So we need to set this async. Right. Now make transaction object. Typically, this is also not required. So I'm removing this line. It accepts three objects. One, the transaction object, the account variable, and the default API. We passed those APIs over there, those variables over there. So that's fine. I told you that we need to get the parameters from network. If we forget this particular piece of information to provide with the transaction object, your transaction will fail and you will not be able to understand why it failed. So there are certain parameters you need to add. So over here, we can see that, okay, this is a parameter coming from where? API instance. What is API instance? If you scroll ahead, you will see that API instance is basically coming from the Algorand node, right? So over here, that we are getting the transactions parameter. So whatever current transactions parameter available in the test network, we are fetching that, right? And why we are fetching that? Because we need to set the transaction fees. We need to set what is the last round on the test network. What was the last valid round we want to set? What is the Genesis hash? Basically, what is the network's first block hash? And what is the network's first block ID? So that we can accommodate our transaction into the test net, right? So over here, one more time, we have created a variable, a variant kind of variable, transaction parameters, which is accepting this which is calling this function, which is basically a task and asynchronous task. So it will fetch the necessary information and it will put over here in the transaction parameters. And now what will we do? We will use this transaction parameter information to create our transaction object. So at this place, transaction.setFee. So whatever we have done in terms of whatever we have received from that network parameter, we need that fees because every transaction in blockchain will cost you some gas fees. So, and we don't know what is the gas fees over there. So we are fetching from there. And then we are setting that, okay, whatever fees we have got, we are setting for the transaction we are trying to parse. Then we have the first valid round, last valid round, Genesis hash, and Genesis ID. Everything is we are getting from transaction parameters or transaction params. We have received the data from your basically your object. Again, guys, saying this is very important. Plenty of people don't realize that this is a very important piece of information. That in order to create the transaction object, you need this piece of information from your current test network environment. Without this piece of information, your transaction object, your transaction will never pass. Then I have put that into a try catch window because I know that it may lead to some problem. So that's why we have try and then we are catching the HTTP request exception. We can have the master exception also, but I know over here it may have that network problem. That's why we are getting the HTTP request exception. So one more time, First of all, we created the network. So from this particular code, setup account or setup Algorand connection, we connected the RPC URL. Then from my wallet, that my Pera wallet, we have fetched that Pera wallet and created an account object over here using that mnemonic. And as a third step, what we have done, we have created the transaction object, and then we passed the transaction object to a newer transaction. And as the first step in the transaction, we received all the parameters required to create a transaction object from the current test network, or rather Algorand node. Clear? Then as a next step, what we are going to do, we want to see that who is initializing the transaction. So basically, when you initialize the transaction or init transaction, basically, so we need to check who is the initiator, right? Without that, it will not work. So who is the initiator of the transaction? And that's basically a wallet address. So for us, which is the wallet address? Sender. What is the sender? Basically, it's a parameter over here, which is ultimately the creator. This one. That means your basically the account which I fetched from my Pera wallet. This is the same address we are using over here. So that is your sender. And again, now till this particular piece, it was an unsigned transaction object. An unsigned transaction objects cannot pass to the blockchain network. So from this place, what we have done, we have now signed the transaction. So again, guys, whatever wallet is initiating the transaction, mostly that is the wallet only which is paying the gas fees. So over here, transaction.sign, and we passed the object again, sender. That means my creator wallet is now signing the transaction. But the question is, I have not used the private key over here. And Mudassir always tells me that, sir, in order to sign a transaction, you need a private key. So when I created that account, I told you that account holds both the things, your address and your private key. So automatically it will pick up the private key from here. So if you put a dot and then you look for private key or look for some keys or something, you will be able to find out, right? That what is the private key for here, or maybe from address dot private key or something, we can find out where you can exactly find out that private key. But it is possible to get the private key from here. But we don't need to do that. Why? Because we have created the wallet from a mnemonic. So ultimately it gives us a complete object which will be able to give the address as well as sign the transaction for us. So once the transaction object is created, so then it is the last step. And what is the last step? The last step is to submit the transaction. So basically, submit the transaction and wait for the response. Now over here, we have again utils, which is a namespace or a class for us, which is from algorand.utils.utils. And they have a function called submit transaction, which ultimately requires two parameters. One, which RPC URL we are going to submit the transaction, and the transaction object itself, right? So in order to submit the transaction, we will require two parameters. And the first parameter is the RPC URL. And the second one is the transaction object. Once we are done with this one, then we are ready to submit. So variant again is a variable I have created, response, and it will be in again asynchronous mode, right? So that's where over here we are awaiting the particular transaction, utils.submit transaction. So whatever we are receiving, we are going to receive in the response part. Now from over here also, there is one more variable which I have created called variable result. And over there, it is waiting for something else. Wait transaction to complete. And over there, it is going to have whatever transaction ID we received in the response object. We are passing the transaction ID over here. Now, but the question is, what is a transaction ID? So every transaction which gets submitted to a blockchain always gives you an ID, right? So basically this ID is your unique hash value, which marks the entire transaction object, that okay, which was the wallet and what action it was performed using that wallet. Maybe it is a transfer between wallets, maybe it is something else. So something like this is possible, right? So over here, what we are trying to achieve, we are trying to create an asset over. So let me just showcase. This is the last step where your asset is now going to be created. And at the last part, I just wanted to print some information. Now, instead of console.writeLine, what will I do? I'll create one more text box over here. And in that text box, we will have particularly the information which we are getting from the transaction object. So I'll just move it across and I'll make it a multi-line. So we can see whatever the object is there, whatever the information we are going to get from there. Let me just make it bigger. Maybe it has some other information. Now over here, what I'll do is I will, instead of this console.writeLine, I'll just remove this one and I'll add text box 4. This is strange. I'm not getting the text box over here. Any of the text boxes. Let us consider it a string variable. Let me just string what we can, response or response from blockchain. Then maybe at the end, I need to create this one as a global variable first. So I'll just copy from here and put it over here. Yeah, over here, string variable, so that it can be accessible to everybody. And I'll just remove the declaration from here. It is inside a task, so we are not able to get the text box over there. So in the main button where I am getting the TX one, over here, probably that place we can have the text box 4 dot text equals to that string variable which we have just created. What is that value? Response from blockchain. Yeah. So that is taken care of. Now let us go back to the other piece. It's not null here, and object response is non-static field method or property. It's a variable only. I need to have a static variable. Let's see that if that can solve the problem. String variables don't require statics. It is only for text-based or the numeric variables. Okay, for now, let me just park it. Let us see what we can come up with the solution. For now, I'm not changing anything. Let's see. Over here, I don't need this also. So I just have this one. So we are good to go. This is again, the last step is over, but the last step basically is returning something. What is that returning? If the result is asset creation, that means our asset creation transaction passed, then it will return result as asset create transaction. So where will I get that one? Over here, TX. Why? Because that is basically your make transaction. So hypothetically, from here, we should get that information, TX dot. Yeah, we get that information, TX dot, and we may have the transaction ID and anything. From here, we can get. For now, we are not getting anything, but it is possible to get the details of the transaction from this object. Where we can find out the transaction details, you can see that response.transaction ID TX ID, right? And okay, we are returning result, not the response. So we cannot have the transaction ID, but result.confirm round. So that's we can get. So whatever result is giving us, we can print over there, right? So let me just stop this one, save this one, and let us try to run whether this works or not. So this is running. We are able to see that. First of all, we need to have the the network over here, the name, the unit name, and total. 3 variables we are going to add. But before that, let us go to app.devflow. Now over here, I am connected to the test network, not to the sandbox today. There are main network and beta net and BOI testnet. We don't need those. Currently, we can connect to the AlgoNode testnet. At the bottom, I have already connected to a wallet, so I'll just showcase the entire process again. Click over here, connect wallet. Then you will be given 5 different items over here. So click over Pera wallet. It will give you a QR code. So what I'll do is, I'll just over here, I'll scan this QR code from my Pera wallet application, mobile application. So I'll scan that one, right? And the wallet which we are using, that particular mnemonic wallet, I know which is that wallet. So I'll just use that wallet to connect. And we can see that at the bottom, the wallet address is now visible to us, right? Now, if you click over there and click over here, View Explorer, you will be able to see what are the basic, this wallet, how many assets it has created, holding assets 97, created as asset 97, 77 applications I have created, right? If you go over here, the balance of that particular, these are test tokens. Don't think that I'm rich and all. These are test tokens. And over here, asset manager. And we can see that whatever asset we have created, I have created till now, all the asset lists are listed over here. Now, what can we do? I'll just go over here where my form is running. Over here, I can say that, okay, AlgoGyaan, so ALGY, let's say, something like this, and token, maybe it's more than or 11 letters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I guess this is something like this you should do. And then over here, let us put a very different number, 98765. Now, if everything is right, whatever I have done, then I'll be able to see the asset over here. So I'll just click over here. And then let us go back over here. Now, we stopped certainly. So it failed or what? Let us see that. Oh, it failed. So let us see why it failed. Some random HJ token, and the value is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and create asset. It is not giving an error. That means it is fine. Okay, let us go over here. Let's see. Yeah, it is there. HJ, the token we have just created. You can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 HJ token is created for. With the ID, with the manager address as my my wallet address, right? So over here, what can be done now? This is my ID, right? Now this particular ID, this is important for everybody to understand why this ID is important, right? So Mudassir, if you want to share and shed any light, why this ID is important while you create a fungible token. Mudassir, meet anybody.
That ID you can identify what exactly in this.
This
Yeah,
ID
but
will be used to opt in.
Yes, this ID will be used for opt-in purposes. So what I can do is now I have multiple wallet addresses, right? Not just this one, this P5. I have different wallet addresses also. So what I will do is I'll create one more, I'll open one more app.devflow. And over there, it took the same address over here. So let me see if I can open one more browser. Yeah, and over here, I'll try to connect a different wallet, right? Yeah. So I'll create a new, which is again my wallet only, but a different wallet address. So I'll scan the QR and I'll connect with this one. So this particular address is now connected over here. If I go to View in Explorer, you can see that it has a 20 tokens, 20 test tokens it has already. But if you go over here, assets, you will see that this particular account doesn't hold any sort of asset over here. So now what will I do? I'll go to my this particular screen where you can see that this is an ID which is required to have an opt-in transaction. Now we will realize that what is an opt-in transaction. So basically, when specifically in Algorand, in other platforms, this is not there, but in Algorand, there is a security barrier created for you where you cannot even accidentally send your tokens to someone else. I will showcase how that works. So over here, if you click over here, you can see send assets, right? So I can send this asset to anyone. I'll click over there. So it is asking me now, what address do you want to send it and how much? So I'll just send 100. Now I need the other address also. So I'll go to this one. I'll copy the wallet address. Okay. I'll come back to my Google Chrome and I'll paste the address over. Right. And then I'll just click the button send. Now once you do that, let us see what happens. Okay, I need to sign the transaction. I guess it is waiting for me to sign the transaction in my mobile. No, but it has not initiated a transaction over here. Yeah, it has initiated. So I'll confirm that. And immediately you will get an error over here. That error says must opt-in asset this particular ID missing from this wallet address. So now what do we need to do? We need to go back to that particular wallet. I need to copy this ID from here. I'll go back to my original or the second address. And from here, what I'll do is I'll go to Asset Manager. I'll go to Opted. I'll click on Opt-in Asset. And from the asset ID, I'll paste the ID over here. And the ID is found. So I'll click over there. Now there is a transaction initiated from this wallet. Again, it will confirm to my wallet address. It will confirm to my Pera wallet application. And then once it is done, it will finish the transaction over here. Yeah. So transaction is successful. If I click over here, view transaction, we'll be able to see that, okay, the transaction took place. It costed this much gas fees. This is the block ID. And you can see that it is just an opt-in transaction, right? So now your second wallet is ready to accept the token. So if I now go back to my Chrome and try to send same thing again. So I'll click over here. I'll click on send assets. I'll go back to the other browser. I'll get the wallet address. I'll come back to app.devflow, paste the address over here. And this time again, I'll have 100. Send. Now again, it will have a screen pop up on my mobile app. I'll confirm the transaction. It is showcasing me that your transaction is being processed. And it is done. And if you check the view transaction, you will be able to see that it is again put inside a block 38241024, which is known as a block height. And you can see that 100 token, HJ token, which we have just created from the Windows application. If you go to asset manager, you will be able to see that my asset manager is there. It is still showing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But if I go to the other browser, I'll be able to see the same thing over here, but under the opted part. And under the opted part, you will be able to see, again, this is an application, so they have not fetched the current status. But because we have opted in this particular asset, it is showcased to us that this particular HJ asset is opted by this wallet address. Let us see if that happens. Refreshing gives us any other information. Yes, so you can see that it is now 100, right? So from the second wallet address, first of all, we had to have that opt-in transaction. Once you pass that opt-in transaction, then and then only your master wallet or your main wallet will be able to send some piece of these tokens to the other wallet address. So this particular security is a very unique feature of Algorand, because as I told you, there are plenty of times in the past also it happened that by mistake you send some tokens to your friend, maybe to someone else, and it is very, very difficult to get those tokens back, right? So there are two features over here, ultimately, which will allow you to stop this kind of behavior altogether. One is, we have already seen that, opt-in transaction. The other one is, if you remember, when we created this token, if I see that, there are 3 different items which are empty, right? So let us try to put that information over there, that whether we are able to see some information in this particular two items, freeze and clawback. Okay, so I'll just stop the code which is running right now. And over here, what I'll do is I'll add the clawback again, because this is an address only. So creator dot address. Okay. And what was the other thing? Freeze equals to same thing, creator dot address. Let us stop this one. Save this one. And let us run again. Okay. Now we have, let's say, KS token, and maybe some unique number, something like this, and create asset. Yeah, no error. So I'll go back over here on my original piece, and let's see if I get that KS also. Yeah, we have seen that KS now, 77,777. But now we have freeze and clawback also. So what this will do is, this will allow you, if you have sent some tokens to someone, you can claw back those tokens also, right? So what happens when you do that clawback function, it allows you to get back the assets which you might have accidentally sent, or you might have sent to, you wanted to send someone else and by mistake you added a different address and all, or you want to, like, for some reason you are getting back some tokens and all. So this particular clawback also gives you that access or peace of mind that you can get your tokens back from that also, right? So this is how your entire journey. We have created a token from somewhere. We have transferred the token using this opt-in transaction to a different wallet altogether. And that's how you can create your entire journey around your assets, right? Since we have only 5 minutes left, if any questions are there from anyone, please go ahead, guys. Anybody? Mudassir, now it is your duty to ask at least one question. So it makes me feel good.
Sure.
Mudassir, if you are speaking, there is some weird noise coming from your end. So, Meet, you are also welcome to ask anything.
Sure. Like for the opt-in purpose, do we need to pay for any gas fee?
Yes,
Do
for
we?
opt-in transaction, you need to pay 0.001. So the person who is receiving the item, if you remember, like in other platforms also, even if you want to receive test tokens, it is mandatory nowadays that you need to have some main network balance in order to receive the test token. To avoid unnecessary wastage of tokens. Over here also, when you transact for that opt-in, you need to have 0.001 or at least 0.201. If you are on main network, then 0.201 you need to hold in your wallet so that you can accept that NFT or anything. But since we are creating fungible token, so it is just 0.001 will be deducted from your wallet address for the opt-in transaction, and then you are ready to receive the transaction. So if you go over here, okay, let me share my screen again so I can showcase. So if I showcase my screen again, and if you go over here in the other wallet which actually opted in, and you can see Explorer, okay, over here, view in Explorer. And you can see that 6 minutes 41 seconds before we got this 100. But just before that, see, this is a transaction which has no HJ token, but it had 0.001 still, right? So if you click over that transaction ID, you will see that it costed you 0.001, right?
Okay. Okay. Then I think minimum balance requirement will also change
Is
based
for
on the
NFT. It is for NFT when you want to receive an NFT, or it is 0.201. But yes, for fungible tokens or for that, for holding, it is currently because it has 20 test tokens in the wallet. So you can test by putting only 0.001 and see what happens. So that will give you an idea exactly what minimum balance. But yes, 0.201 is an official news from the Pera wallet team, that you, in order to hold an asset in the Pera wallet, the minimum balance should be 0.201.
Yeah, yeah. Right. I think they allocate some storage for the our account for opting that asset. So I think for that we had to pay or have to keep some
Yes.
minimum
So
balance.
basically, when you receive that, it is also going to hold some transaction in your account too. So that is the
Right.
reason that they
Right.
are doing it, so that, as I told you, first and foremost is accidental sends. Accidentally sending is prohibited or can be stopped up to a certain level. And second thing, if you are receiving something, and so you are becoming a part of the system also. So if you are receiving, you are also putting some small stake. But yes, if you want to receive, you have to pay. That means kind of seriousness, you can say. Programming is
Right.
different. I'm just portraying a different idea along that. But basically,
Yeah.
because it deals with storage, which is again going to cost or something. That's why you are going to pay that fees.
Maybe like if we want to rent some home, then we have to pay some deposit. It's like that, I
Yeah,
think.
something like that.
Right.
This is a transaction fee only, because we have initiated, we have written, we have updated the blockchain status. So this is a transaction fee. What you are talking is of a way to
Minimum
hold,
balance.
yes,
Yeah.
minimum balance. So if you check
Yeah,
my
yeah.
wallet address, let me showcase that how it works. So if you go over here, view, so see the minimum balance for me is this much. Why? Because I hold 99 assets.
Right, right.
Right. And that's why for me, for particular this wallet, the minimum balance should be this one. If it goes down that, it will not allow me to transact. So I cannot utilize, though I have 174, I cannot utilize till this value.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Okay, guys. Anyone else? Any other question? You can type in the chat also if you're not able to speak. Okay, then. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us tonight. And we will continue delivering these kind of sessions week by week. So the next week will be last week for C#. Then we will start a different language, right? So Tail script. And then we will have Python. So this is an entire 9 weeks journey for every developer who can start from the beginning and have had the basic idea of how to create a fungible token and all, so that from here we can move on, right? If you just want to create an NFT, just add the URL and this automatically gets converted into an NFT, right?
I have a simple simple question. Like we have 12 attendees. Like do we all have like a prior blockchain experience, or like we are
In order to understand why the account, or what is the wallet, and what is the private key, and what is the transaction object, transaction ID, yes. a little bit of blockchain knowledge is required.
Right.
But I can say that once or twice you can see that you can consider this as a regular programming also. You know, you don't need to understand what is the definition of the entire class to consume the class, right? So you can just have the brief idea about what is an account, what is an address, why to sign the transactions, what ultimately we are going to get from the object, something like this. If you have this much, you can code. You can start coding. I'm not saying you can become an expert overnight, but you can start coding.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.